Hello, John Heaton here again with special guest Dave Costello. Another video from Bristol, England. And today I was going to wait. I'm aware that I haven't done a John Lennon album review for quite a while, and done quite a few McCartney and Wings and Harrison. So any Lennon fans out there, in case you were worried, I'm now going to do a Lennon album. And one of the reasons I haven't done one for a while is because waiting for the individual vinyl albums to come out in August, and I'm definitely going to do Plastigona Band. But seeing as we have the vinyl here of Walls and Bridges, we're going to do this one. And the first thing to say about this album is it's really nice packaging. I mean, this picture was drawn by John, aged 11, and it features the FA Cup final from 1952 between Arsenal and Newcastle. And apparently there was a player called Walls and there was a player called Bridges, which is quite remarkable. And then on the back cover, a very amusing picture of John there. And then, as we'll show you as we go through the video, there's a nice booklet with the words and more paintings from his childhood. And you can play around with the cover.
Oh, I never did that.
And do that, or this. So you can have a lot of fun. You just have to be a bit careful, because that's how my copy got knackered.
That's why I've never done it.
Your copy's in mint condition, Dave.
Yeah.
Alright, so this album came out during the, I hate to call it the Lost Weekend, but that's what it's commonly known as. It was the time when he was separated from Yoko, and he was in Los Angeles, and he was very productive during that period, particularly towards the end of that period. So I'm not going to slag off the whole period. I think it's a worthy part of his career, and I think this album is a very important part of his solo career. So it came out in, I think it was September '74. And I know John himself was not that keen on it, calling it the work of a semi-sick craftsman. And some of the songs are pretty obviously about Yoko and pleading with her, or trying to reconcile their differences. But anyway, enough of that. What's your overall impression of this album, Dave?
Well, it's an interesting album, isn't it? I mean, the Lost Weekend, we know all about the chaos and the pain that Lennon was going through, having been continually told by Yoko that it wasn't time for him to come back. And and so a lot of that pain of separation got put into some of these song lyrics. But I think Lennon was very wise and astute in knowing when to leave that chaos behind, and he came back to New York because he just knew that those sessions over in LA were too drink and coke fueled to get any serious musicianship and quality to those sessions. And I think what strikes me about Walls and Bridges is it's very clear how Lennon was really focused on wanting to produce a good, seems silly, doesn't it? You'd think he'd want every effort to be top notch, but there's a sense he's really taking lavish care and attention about wanting this to be the best it could be. And so he came back to the record plant, back to New York, brought some good, well-seasoned musicians with him, the Reliables, Klaus,
Jim Keltner, Jesse Ed Davis, Nicky Hopkins.
Everyone who, they're grounded musicians who knew how to just get on and do a good, top quality job. Which is what is shown, I think, in the album overall. It's got great production values.
Yeah, and also other musicians include the Reverend Thumbs Gherkin.
Fred Gherkin.
Dwarf McDougall.
Yeah.
I think there's John Lennon. various pseudonyms, which Dr. Winston O'Boogie, of course. This is the inside sleeve. And of course it's on the trusty Apple label, which is always nice to see. I always think it's nice to see on solo Beatles releases, because it provides a little bit of continuity versus the group days. And this is the booklet. Nice explanation of the name Lennon there, which is an Irish name, and then the words beautifully packaged. Some guy at CBS designed the whole thing, I think.
And this is pre-Sean. But it's interesting how Lennon was kind of going back to his roots, really, isn't it? There's something about it, going back to these early childhood paintings.
Yeah.
As well.
Okay, so we better get to the music. Going Down on Love, the first track. quite a pained song, and not the happiest of lyrics, but very powerful in a minor key, which makes it more powerful, I think. He even says, when someone, please, please help me, you know, I'm drowning in a sea of hatred. So it's heavy going, but it's actually a very good musicianship and quite an uplifting song, really, at the end of the day.
Yep.
It's got that kind of
Great opener.
beat, not beat like the next song, Whatever Gets Us Through the Night, which is more of a you call it a dance number, I don't know, but it's quite unique, as we were talking earlier. I don't really think we've heard a song like that before or since.
It's a great song. I'd love to. I'm amazed there haven't been more covers of Whatever Gets You Through the Night, because it's a really clever song, and the version that Lennon delivers is it's pretty intense stuff. That crazy sax that's just about being contained. It's a roller coaster ride of a song. Brilliant.
I think one of the reasons there might not have been covers of that song, because it's actually quite a difficult song to replicate. When they tried doing it live, John and Elton, it wasn't a great version, I didn't think.
I'd love to hear a version of it simplified, really, without all the horns. And
on Anthology, there's a version of Lennon's version before Elton got involved, and it's a little bit slow and plodding. And Elton definitely added that magical piano, which I think lifts it to greatness.
But great lyrics as well.
Yeah.
Don't need a sword to cut through flowers.
Don't need a watch to waste your time.
Yeah, brilliant lyrics. It kind of,
I'm going to
classic.
say the third one, or shall I?
Oh, yeah, you better.
Don't need a gun to blow your mind.
Yeah.
Which is a bit sad, given what happened, but anyway. So the next track, Old Dirt Road. Brilliant strings, great production, great words.
Great
Your
guitar.
favourite line?
Great wah guitar.
Trying to shovel.
Smoke with a pitchfork in the wind.
Yeah. Great track. Co-written with Harry Nilsson. And then we have What You Got, which is quite clearly, I think, about Yoko. You don't know what you got till you lose it. Quite a desperate song.
Baby, give me one more chance.
Brilliant. And the next track, Bless You, is very much aimed towards Yoko. Some people say it's over now that we've spread our wings. No link to Paul McCartney wings. But we know better, baby. The hollow ring is only last year's echo. Sad words, and he wasn't to get back together with Yoko till January, February '75, so he was still a bit of a mess when he recorded this album. Although I don't want to slag off the whole period, and Maypang, if you're watching, I'm not doing that. I think this is a great album, and it was the only one which got to number one of his whole solo career.
Yeah, and the point is, I think he was historically a mess. It was like he was talking about the mess he was in 6 months, a year earlier, maybe. And by the time this was actually recorded, I don't think he was in such a mess. Maybe. I don't know, but I think it kind of belies. But yeah, a semi-sick craftsman, not totally sick.
No.
Sick, but getting better.
But then the track Scared, which closes side one, with the great wolf opening the track, by the way. You read the words of this, they are pretty scary.
Yeah. There was that great, was it the John and Yoko film that was made where they, it was was it Mark McGann?
Yeah.
And they had they did a great job on the Lost Weekend Years, and there was and I think it was based on a true story where didn't Harry Nilsson tie up John or something and took his glasses away one night, and we don't know, do we?
All kinds of mad antics went on, I think, in Los Angeles.
And he had a pool cue, and he was going around the room like smashing it up, and it needed to be kind of contained.
Yeah, physically contained.
Yeah, and because it kind of touched on I'm scared. Yeah, this song kind of sums up that really well. Like if that's where the place he went to, then this song is about that. Yeah.
A good piano on quite a bit of this album, which we've been missing on most of Mind Games.
Side 2.
Number 9, Dream, the single, which got to about number 9, and based on a dream, based on the string arrangement he'd done for Many Rivers to Cross, Jimmy Cliff track, which was on the Harry Nilsson Pussycats album.
Yeah.
And gorgeous track, gorgeous melody.
It's a beguiling Lennon song. I remember hearing it when I was first getting into the Beatles and Lennon, and it just was haunting. Again, nothing like it really. Unfortunately for me, it's kind of still a bit too connected with 1980 because it was played a lot around that time, and it's one of those songs I personally need to reclaim from that period.
Yeah.
But fantastic song, great production. What's it about? What's it about?
I don't think we've managed to work out what our Bawa Kui Pussy Pussy
No.
means.
Again, somebody please let John know. Bawakama Pousse Pousse, which sounds French.
The next song is a bit of light relief, a fun track called Surprise Surprise, and the good thing about this album is although it's heavy in places, it does have intermittent lighter tracks to alleviate the darker nature of some of the lyrics. So this is a fun track, and the sense of humour is, well, it's apparent throughout the album really, and on the packaging.
Yeah. And as you said, this song is about...
It's about May, yeah, and it's a good track. Steel and Glass. This is a story about your friend and mine, and we think it's about Alan Klein, but then Lennon claimed it was about himself, and it's a bit of a lackluster repeat of How Do You Sleep, and it doesn't sound half as vicious. And the words are a little bit ambiguous, could be about a lot of people, I guess. But it's a good track. It's very much based on How Do You Sleep.
Yeah. Same strings, kind of those weird strings.
Right.
Yeah, good.
Beef Jerky is a kind of almost throwaway instrumental, quite fun. Nothing wrong with it. And then the album closes with Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out. Not to be confused with the blues track, Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, which is a Lennon original. It's actually the first track he wrote for this album back in 1973 when he first arrived in LA, and he knew that he wasn't, as you said earlier, he wasn't in the right frame of mind to record anything, so he kept it in his pocket and waited a year almost before recording it.
Wow.
And I think it's a really nice track and very sad lyrics in retrospect. You know, nobody loves you until you're six foot. Sorry, everybody loves you when you're 6 foot in the ground. Possibly overproduced. And if the Lennon anthology has a really nice version without the strings, which I think is gorgeous. But it's a strong melody. It's a strong closer. I was going to say closer, but of course it's not a closer because we have
the debut of Julian Lennon on vinyl with what's it called?
The cover of Ya Ya.
Ya Ya, yeah.
1 minute
Julian
version.
on piano.
John on piano. Julian on drums.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that's course, yeah.
So, you know, another light-hearted touch. This album isn't all serious. It's a nice mixture of seriousness and humour and sincerity. Every word is heartfelt.
I think for me what was great was just that he put so much care and attention into this album, and why didn't we have more Lennon albums? You know, that's the real shame of it.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of peters out too early for me, this album. I think Beef Jerky and Nobody Loves You are not quite so strong. But there are some great tracks on there.
Well, I've got a soft spot for this album just because it was the last album he had done for up until Double Fantasy. So throughout those 5 years, this was the latest release, and so this was the album you went back to right up until November 1980 when Double Fantasy came out. So I'm very, very familiar with this album, and I'm going to give it a 10 just because it's one of my personal favourites. Maybe you wouldn't rate it quite as high.
I'm going to give it a 9, but great album. It's an essential Lennon album to have, of course.
Okay, thank you for watching. I'm certainly going to do more Lennon album reviews when the vinyl stuff comes out, but that's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.